Now let's go to the White House, and White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany joins us from, looks like, the North Lawn. Good morning to you, Kayleigh.
Good morning.
We have been talking about these police officers down in Atlanta being charged yesterday. We've had different opinions. Some say the charges were appropriate. Some say that the officers were overcharged. Some have said it was premature. Does the president feel the charges were appropriate?
Well, the president has said this was a terrible situation. It was sad, but he noted last night that, look, you cannot resist a police officer. If you have a disagreement with them, he said, you take it up with them after. And he's reiterated that he hopes this officer gets a fair shake in court. It's up to the justice system now. It's up to the state courts, but he wants the police officer to get a fair shake because all too often police officers do not.
All right, Kayleigh, the other big story yesterday was Senator Tim Scott's bill, Senate engineered bill on criminal justice reform, I should say police reform or improvement. Did the president know about this in detail and work at all with Tim Scott on this? And does he expect Democratic senators to try to go in, roll up their sleeves and have input on this and get it out of committee?
Yes, the president, the administration, we did work very closely with Senator Scott. This is a great bill. It's one that closely tracks the president's executive order. It's very strong. It's fair. It's even-handed. We hope to see it pass. We hope Democrats will come and join us in this endeavor because all too often they play partisan politics. And the bill that the Democrats have put out is an absolute non-starter. For instance, they roll back qualified immunity, something that's existed for a very long time in this country. And the Harlow Court, when the Supreme Court ruled on in that case, said, look, if with qualified immunity, there are big social costs if you don't have it there, namely police officers pulling back, not patrolling the streets. That's an example and something that would be devastating for this country. We see what's happening in Seattle, and we see the law and order issues we've had across the country when there aren't enough law enforcement officers.
So, Kayleigh, the DOJ filed that complaint in federal court to prevent John Bolton's book from being released. It's supposed to be released next Tuesday. He did an interview with another network. This is a portion that was just released from that network. Watch this.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection. He was so focused on the reelection that longer-term considerations fell by the wayside. So if he thought he could get a photo opportunity with Kim Jong-un at the demilitarized zone in Korea, there was considerable emphasis on the photo opportunity and the press reaction to it, and little or no focus on what such meetings did for the bargaining position of the United States.
So this is going to be all over every network, the release of this book right before the election. What's your reaction to the timing of this?
My reaction is that John Bolton has discredited himself. He is a misguided hawk on foreign policy and a weak dove of an author. This man is someone who praised President Trump as being strong on foreign policy, not making the mistakes of previous administrations, perfectly prepared. These are all quotes from John Bolton. He said President Trump understands President Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. He's on the record saying this. So John Bolton's book is debunked by none other than John Bolton. He's discredited on both sides of the aisle, and if you thought Comey was the most disliked man in America, I think John Bolton has now taken that title.
Well, let's see whether or not the book does come out as scheduled on Tuesday, or if the courts are able to step in. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about the weekend. We're going to restart the rallies. The president is down in Tulsa. Kayleigh, there have been a lot of people who have said, look, it's too early at this point because of social distancing to put so many people into a jam-packed arena. And Dr. Fauci yesterday said that he would not attend because he said he was in one of the high-risk groups going forward. We understand apparently the National Guard has been called in as well to help, and some are suggesting that the president is not taking the COVID pandemic seriously. He's just more interested in getting back on the road and getting his base energized.
Look, the president has taken COVID seriously. It was, after all, the president who put in place travel restrictions, acted early when the Democrats were calling that move xenophobic. But with regard to the rally in particular, Oklahoma is entering phase 3. This is permitted under those guidelines. And it's interesting to watch the media, some in the media, not all, but some, really not listen to science, but instead cherry pick science when it's ideologically convenient, because we've seen some in the media praise the protesters, make no mention of the fact that they're not socially distanced or wearing masks in some cases, but then target the Trump rally or target a church when a church wants to reopen appropriately socially distanced.
Kayleigh, I understand that, but you know, this is going to be the first time an indoor stadium has been pretty much packed to the rafters. You know, with the other, you know, you don't see the NBA, you don't see any professional sports teams out and about at this point. I mean, this is a step we have not yet seen during this coronavirus pandemic.
Well, this is permitted under phase 3.
No, I understand it is, but nobody else has done it before. Are you worried about that?
We are leading on that. There will be hand sanitizer. There will be masks handed out. There will be precautions taken. So we believe that this is a safe opportunity to congregate and to really celebrate the great things that President Trump does each and every day in this administration.
Yeah, before I get to my question, just to finish this off, Kayleigh, being that the demand's so high, has there been talk about moving this maybe to a stadium outdoors?
Well, that would be a decision for the campaign, so I'm unaware if they're considering moving it outdoors or not, but right now it's indoor in that new arena.
Now, I got to ask you about Anthony Fauci. A couple of days ago, he came out and said, well, I admit that I did not downplay the efficiency of face masks early on because he wanted nurses to have face masks, so he basically told us not to wear them, as I paraphrase. So he essentially was being deceptive when the pandemic first hit. Instead of saying grab a bandana, not a mask, he said don't worry about it.
Look,
did the president know did the president know he wasn't being honest about the usefulness of a mask?
So I haven't spoken to the president directly about that quote from Dr. Fauci, but what I would say is the administration did consistently emphasize that N95 respirators should not be used because we needed to save those for medical personnel. So I believe that's what Dr. Fauci was referring to, but in terms of the president on that quote specifically, haven't spoken to him about that.
All right, Kayleigh, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.